Motion be agreed to. I give the call to the member for Corangamite.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. It is with great sadness that I join my many parliamentary colleagues in this condolence motion for Don Randall. It's still hard to believe that Don Randall is no longer here with us. His death, of course, came as a terrible shock. A beautiful white rose sits in the place just over here of a great member of Parliament, a fearless warrior and a wonderful family man. To Julie, Tess and Elliott, to other family members, to his friends, to his staff, to his Liberal and Canberra families and to the people of Canning, my sincere condolences. You have lost a great husband, father, brother, friend and advocate. To Julie, Tess and Elliott in particular, I too have sat in the gallery listening to a condolence motion for my mother Anne, a Victorian MP who, also like Don, died far too young. As tough as it is, I know that, like me, these tributes will give you great comfort in the days and months and the years ahead. And it was today a great pleasure to meet Julie, Tess and Elliott for the first time when we gathered for afternoon tea, and it's very hard to imagine what they are enduring at the moment. But as I say, I know that the incredible tributes we've heard in this place today will give them so much comfort at these very difficult times. Mr Deputy Speaker, I regret that I didn't get to know Don as well as others in this place. Yet, in a funny sort of way, he became my spiritual guide during my 2013 election campaign. My campaign director was Jocelyn Griffiths, who worked with Don and for Don for 6 years, up until the end of 2010. The many lessons that Don taught Jocelyn about winning a marginal seat from Labor, Jocelyn was able to pass on to me. This was underpinned by the philosophy that every community matters. In fact, at one stage before the 2013 election, Don called me to wish me luck and to give me some advice. The most important message, Mr Deputy Speaker, was door knock your heart out. And that I did. We've heard about Don's legendary door-knocking efforts and suggestions that a restraining order would have to be taken out because he door-knocked so many homes over so many years. And we heard earlier today in this condolence motion the Treasurer speaking about his times hitting the hustings with Don door-knocking. And before the election, I took one of Don's great friends, the then Shadow Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, door-knocking in suburban Highton in Geelong, with the media in tow, which is always a little daunting. And I have to say, for the record, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'm pretty sure that the member for Curtin well and truly met Don Randall's expectations, unlike the Treasurer, who I feel had a bit of difficulty converting a few votes from what we've heard today, and Julie was able to convert more than a few swinging voters. Mr Deputy Speaker, there was no better campaigner than Don Randall. Every single vote mattered. That's because every single person in Canning mattered. He put community first and politics second. Whether it be his tireless support for those with autism, his fight for young Indigenous men through the Clontarf Foundation, or for Australia's relationship with Cuba or Sri Lanka, Don Randall never did anything by halves. The Clontarf Foundation, for instance, started with 25 boys in the year 2000. It now looks after some 3,700 boys in 70 schools across Western Australia, the Northern Territory, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. This is a great testament to the man that Don was. Don had great compassion, and I know Don shared the importance of speaking often about governing with compassion. As a special needs teacher for some 20 years, he had an extraordinary ability to empathise with the plight of others. In his first speech as the member for Canning, he vowed to work for the most vulnerable. He said, "Nothing upsets me more than to see good, decent breadwinners working long and extensive hours to provide a better quality of life and opportunities for their children, and to sadly observe that they are making little headway. For those who genuinely want to work to improve their lot, I support measures that will ensure that they get to keep more of the money that they earn." We've heard many stories, Mr Deputy Speaker, about Don today, and I certainly do agree that he was a lovable rogue, a scallywag, sometimes even a ratbag. But even when he spoke out in his direct and often controversial way, he had a twinkle in his eye. He did like to make mischief, but this was also underpinned by a great conviction in what he believed to be right and just, fair and equitable. He was also famous, as we heard at his funeral, for his one-liners, and one of my favourites went along these lines. Don said, "I liken Mr Rudd to a sparkler. It's all glitz and it's fascinating everybody, but eventually it goes out and you've got a burnt stick in the end. But compare that with John Howard. He's like the eternal flame, steady, constant, and always there, doing the right job." I do regret, Mr Deputy Speaker, not getting to know Don better than I did know him. He had many more lessons to share, many more stories to tell, and more great advice to give. He was gutsy, and I really love that about Don. He was brave, he was courageous. It did get him into trouble, but I truly admired him for his courage. Canning and Corangamite are not dissimilar in their characteristics, large and diverse electorates made up of farming and coastal communities, sprawling suburbs and many country towns. If I can do half the job that Don did at consolidating a marginal seat, winning people's respect and fighting for his electorate, I will be very proud. Mr Deputy Speaker, it's been very moving hearing the wonderful contributions of so many members in this place today, including some of Don's closest friends, particularly from the Foreign Minister, the member for Patterson, who did an amazing job, the member for Hasluck, the member for Warringah, and the member for Swan. Don reminds us once again that life is too short, and in Don's case, it was way too short. In this place, we will miss him dearly. Vale, Don Randall. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.